me say this to whoever's watching. Here in America, we have a principle called freedom of speech. Freedom of speech means that everybody gets to...
Freedom of speech means the government doesn't get involved.
Mouth, because I'm not asking you what freedom of speech is.
Just because they've lifted the mandate doesn't mean we should stop protesting the vaccine mandate.
This one is a problem. You're not part of us.
Let's protest the vaccine mandate that they're already lifting. If you get sick, stay away from the hospital and get dirty medicine. Yes, do it. Private and the private mandate? Okay.
Why the fuck haven't you?
Let's go Darwin! We are here protesting peer-reviewed science. I wanted to interview a doctor. Is there a doctor in the house? Paging any doctors? Doctors? No?
It's experimental. Nobody knows what the future.
It got approved by the FDA.
It did not.
This is emergency use authorization. And you know what they did?
It was FDA approved a few months ago.
No, that was for Premier and it's not available in the United States.
Exactly.
Well, I'll put it this way. Okay, because it got approved by the FDA, what? All of a sudden it's safe for people?
What's another way to protect yourself from COVID?
My natural immunity.
All immunity is natural.
Did you have COVID?
All immunity is natural.
Let me ask you something. On a personal note, did you have COVID?
Okay. What? Yeah, I've gotten COVID.
So I had COVID.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you get anybody tested? Do you have antibodies?
Since that point,
Everyone that I meet at these rallies swears that they already had COVID and that they're somehow patient zero.
Okay.
I hear that all the time. I hear that literally all the time, dude.
no, okay, but my point is I had it, okay?
Everyone says they had. Everyone at these rallies says they had it.
Is it real?
How do you protect yourself against COVID?
You know what? Don't wear a goddamn mask. I live here in New York
Okay,
City.
so the best way to protect yourself against COVID is to not wear a mask.
That is correct. When you wear a mask, you breathe in oxygen and you breathe out carbon monoxide. When you
Okay,
wear a
that's
mask,
completely not verified. That is not verified at all. That goes against smack in the face of science.
It does not. There's so many scientists out there that actually
I would not trust a scientist that would say that wearing a mask helps you get COVID.
You know why? Because you've been brainwashed.
The secret ingredient is that you didn't wear a
For
mask.
me, that's a conclusion I draw. You can draw your own conclusion.
I'd love to talk to a scientist at this rally.
Listen, I would,
I'd love to talk to a scientist.
handpick scientists or what?
Handpick scientist?
Yeah, scientists that agree with your brainwash mentality or what?
Or Robert Malone, who I think is an idiot.
Why do you think he's an idiot?
I actually no, he's not an idiot. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Do you know that he's the one of them who created
He wrote a paper and did a study in 1989 and has no involvement in the vaccine since 1989. His name's on the patent. I agree with that.
You know, there's 15,000 scientists that have signed and agreed with him.
What scientists?
Again, go do your research. It's out there. Are you familiar
Well,
with the frontline doctors?
America's frontline doctors is such a joke. I've interviewed America's frontline doctors.
You're the fucking joke.
I've interviewed them.
You're an idiot. So if you've interviewed them, have you gone back and dug into the science that they performed?
Yes.
Tell me about America's Frontline Doctors is a total sham. It was made by a political think tank that was basically they wanted to justify reopening the economy. It started then, and now it's, the person who's in charge of it, de facto in charge of it, Simone Gold, actually just got indicted on this January 6th charges. They sued, so I think about saying that there's like 45,000 deaths being hidden or something, and they made like a lawsuit and said they had a whistleblower that worked at CMS, and the whole thing was bogus. The whole thing was made up. It's just, I don't even know how they don't all have their licenses taken away at this point, because it's like it's not only that they're not evidence-based, is that they're lying. Like it's like the opposite extreme.
So if you've interviewed them, have you gone back and dug into the science that they performed?
Yes.
And what?
Yes.
Discredit
America's Frontline Doctors should just be called America's Frontline. They should take off the name doctor. No immunologist, no virologist, no epidemiologist.
Let me say this to whoever's watching. Here in America, we have a principle called freedom of speech. Freedom of speech means that everybody gets to...
Freedom of speech means the government
Shut
doesn't
your
get
fucking
involved.
mouth, because I'm not asking you what freedom of speech is, okay? Freedom of speech is freedom of speech. And when the government censors people, and they censors doctors by taking away their doctor's license because they disagree with what that doctor says, it's bullshit. That's not America. That's not what we're about. And if you think that the government's right in doing that, fuck you. You're my enemy, not my friend.
All right, dude, thank you for being honest, man.
Like, you're saying that the cause is not COVID, it could be something else.
Like a heart attack,
like a heart
pneumonia.
attack, cancer, car accident,
Okay.
stroke.
And you can tell that the COVID death numbers are not inflated because we have something called excess mortality. So we can look and see, based on what would be expected given the last 5 years before the pandemic, compare that to the deaths during the pandemic. And the difference is the excess mortality. And you can see that the excess mortality is almost exactly the same as the number of COVID deaths.
Have you ever heard of a vaccine where you have to take multiple shots?
Unbelievable. That's insane. No, that's...
Have you ever heard of a vaccine that has multiple shots?
No, never.
Have you ever heard of a vaccine that has multiple shots?
Yeah, COVID, the COVID vaccine.
I'm just curious where your source of data is coming from, because you're saying it's coming from people who are unmotivated. But other than being unmotivated, what is their credibility?
Listen, first of all, to expose the lies and the corruption. That's a motivation.
Because I don't think motivation matters.
Motivation matters all the time.
So it is great to understand people's motivation, just like I'm talking to you right now. I want to understand your viewpoints, but I just don't understand how people saying, oh, you want to expose the lies gives credibility to the numbers. Like those two.
First of all, you're dealing with numbers absent absolute. I'm not speaking to any absolute set of numbers. All I'm doing, I'm not a scientist. I haven't performed any of these studies. But what I have done is I've read enough studies all across the board.
But you're using science to prove your point, or
No, I'm not.
So you aren't using science.
What I'm saying is there are studies out there and sources
But
of numbers.
studies are numbers.
Science.
Studies include numbers, quantitative and qualitative.
Am I going to argue that? You're spitting out the obvious. What's your point?
So my point is, what are these where is the credibility from the studies that you're coming from, other than their motivation?
Are you coming from the standpoint that any study that has numbers automatically has credibility?
No, that's why I'm asking you where the truth is behind these studies that you're saying. Where's the credibility?
Which studies? You got to start naming studies.
No, you told me studies. No, you told me that you're getting that the reason you guys are here is because of studies.
There is a study that has been put out or released. Speaking about the morticians, right? Who have done autopsies on the people with the vax. What I'm referring to are morticians that have come out and have done autopsies on vaccinated individuals, people that have died from the vaccine. They call it blood clots.
When do morticians do autopsies?
What's that?
When do morticians do autopsies?
What do you mean, when do
Mortician? You're talking about like what?
Well, maybe that's the wrong word.
Okay.
Morticians are the ones that prepare the bodies for the funeral.
Yeah, they embalm it.
Isn't a part of that by doing some form of an autopsy?
No, they don't do autopsies.
Who does autopsies? Medical examiners?
The medical examiner will do an autopsy.
Okay. The study that I'm talking about was specifically put out by morticians.
They do an autopsy?
Listen.
I brought my mother to a funeral home. They did not do an autopsy. I guarantee you they did not give me a cause of death.
Maybe they did. Maybe they don't. I'm not sure. I can't speak to it. I'm not a mortician.